January 1st, 1962. Four musicians play 15 songs for the label's top executive. When they finish, he barely needs time to think. Guitar groups are on the way out. One sentence. One audition. One decision. 2 years later, it would become one of the biggest mistakes in music history. Those four musicians were the Beatles. With no record deal and nowhere else in London willing to listen, they went back to the only place that would still have them, Hamburg, Germany. Every night they played in small clubs where the music rarely stopped. Sets that stretched for hours, crowds that didn't care who they were, only whether they could keep the room moving. Nobody there knew their names. Nobody was watching for them to become anything. But every performance made them harder to ignore. The hours were brutal. The pay was barely enough to live on. More than once, it would have been easier to quit, to go home, find steadier work, let the Decca rejection be the end of the story instead of the beginning of one. They didn't. One of them said it out loud more than the others, half joke, half warning. John had a way of turning doubt into a dare, like the rejection wasn't something to recover from, but something to prove wrong. The rest of the band fed off it without ever quite saying so. Somewhere in the back of their minds, they knew what the industry believed, that guitar bands had no future, that the man who'd said so wasn't some outlier. He was speaking for an entire business built on knowing in advance what audiences would want next. If that was true, they were wasting their time. So every night on that stage became a quiet argument against it. Not with words. Nobody there was interested in an argument. Just with the sound getting tighter, the shows getting sharper, the four of them turning it to something that hadn't existed when they'd walked out of Decca empty-handed. Back in Liverpool, word started to travel in a small, local way. Nothing London would have noticed yet. Just a band that was better than they used to be, playing to a room that was starting to fill. Then, someone finally saw what everyone else had missed. A local businessman caught one of their shows almost by accident. He didn't know the music business. He ran a shop. But he believed the band deserved another chance, and he offered to become their manager. The Beatles said yes. He had no contacts, no reputation in the industry, nothing to trade on except persistence. So he did the only thing available to him. He carried their demo from one record label to the next, in person, asking for 5 minutes of someone's time. Most of the doors stayed closed. The answer was almost always the same. No. The same word in different rooms from different men, all repeating some version of what Decca had already decided. Until one producer agreed to listen. He wasn't completely convinced by the songs. What he noticed was harder to explain. A kind of confidence in the room that had nothing to do with talent alone. Four young men who were sharp, funny, alive in a way that didn't quite fit the polished acts he usually worked with. He signed them anyway. It wasn't a sure bet. It was a gamble on a feeling. Their first record came out that October. It didn't explode. It climbed, slowly, politely. The kind of start nobody remembers a company for. Then came the second one. It went to #1. And after that, something happened that no one in the industry had a name for yet. Crowds outside their shows grew bigger than the venues could hold. Girls fainting at airports. Police lines breaking under the weight of people who'd shown up just to be near them. One country, then another, then dozens more, all reacting the same way almost at once. Newspapers scrambled for a word. They landed on one: Beatlemania. The man who'd said guitar bands had no future would spend the rest of his career being remembered for the one band he turned away. But here's the part history usually skips. The man behind that desk wasn't trying to make the biggest mistake in music history. He was trying to make the safest decision in the room. In January 1962, the Beatles didn't look like the future. They looked like four young musicians asking for a chance. And that's why genuine breakthroughs are so easy to miss. That's exactly what happened in that room in January 1962. It's easy to hear this story now and think the mistake was obvious, that anyone should have known. History has a way of making uncertainty disappear, and it's probably happening somewhere today. The harder truth is, nobody in that room was trying to make a mistake. They were making the decision that seemed safest. They looked at everything that had worked before and assumed the future would look the same. It usually does, until one day, it doesn't. It's happening again right now somewhere. A version of that room, a version of that sentence, being said with just as much confidence as it was in January 1962, about a technology, an idea, an artist, a company that doesn't fit what anyone in power has learned to expect yet. Nobody rejects tomorrow on purpose. They just make the decision that feels right and move on. Sometimes the difference between being overlooked and being unforgettable is simply refusing to stop when everyone else is certain you're finished. If you're not following the Imaginarium, you'll probably never see us again. And if you do, you're exactly where you're supposed to be.